Live from MMA Fighting Studios, this is Between the Links. And now, your host, Mike Heck.
The iconic voice of Esther Lynn welcomes you back to a brand new edition of Between the Links. We are live. We're back in video form this week. We are on the eve of UFC 278 going down in Salt Lake City this Saturday. A lot going on this weekend in combat sports. A lot has happened since we last spoke on this program. So let's talk about it with the panel. First, let us introduce Mr. No Gray Area, the winningest player in the history of the show, the man who cut an unforgettable Michael Chandler promo to win the show a couple of weeks ago from No Bets Barred. Damn, they were good. At MMAfighting.com. Jed Meshew, hello, sir. Your intros are getting longer and longer, my man.
I'm just racking up titles, baby. Look, if I go down, if that's what I'm remembered for, the Michael Chandler promo, I'll be a little sad because I think I've had some other really good efforts. But that was probably the best thing I've done in some time on this show, so I'm okay with it.
That was amazing. There's no chance you could lose after that promo. So his opponent today, and let me just say this, I put out feelers to multiple managers in the MMA space because I wanted a fighter to join the panel this week. Who has what it takes? Which fighter has the gusto to take on Jed Meshew in this virtual arena we have here?
And Michael Chandler didn't want that smoke.
Michael Chandler didn't want the smoke, but one man did step up to the plate. He is a member of the UFC's lightweight division. I know his debut was at welterweight. So, I don't know, maybe we'll get an official answer to this. But today, he puts the analyst hat on. Let us welcome in Evan Elder to the program. Evan, welcome. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you guys for having me.
So are you UFC lightweight Evan Elder or UFC welterweight Evan Elder? I know most of your career is at lightweight, but...
Yeah, definitely lightweight. I just stepped up a couple days notice, so didn't want to have to cut the weight, cut to 55, so... took the fight at welterweight, but definitely going back to my original weight class in lightweight.
There we go. So let's get into this thing. Let us begin with this past weekend and Marlon Vera's sort of coming out party in a lot of ways. It was a tough first couple of rounds for Chito Vera, as it typically goes for him in his career, as he took on Dominick Cruz in the main event of UFC San Diego. He got some momentum in the third round in the main event fight, and then boom, big head kick turns the lights out, and Marlon Vera gets yet another victory. Jed, we'll begin with you since you were not on the post-fight show after the event. What was your reaction to Chito Vera's win, the performance, the finish, the whole nine?
That dude's going to be a problem, man. that was my reaction because that's just the truth. That's it. Like, Chito is one of those dudes who doesn't mind losing the battle if he's going to win the war, and I thought Dominic Cruz did way better than I thought. Like, I thought he might be tricky for a little bit, but that at the end of the day, he's just too old. He's too far past it. But he, like you said, for 2 rounds was really doing very well. And even in that third round, fine. But it just didn't matter at the end of the day because Marlon Vera is a finisher par excellence. Like, there aren't a lot of dudes who do it like him. And so unless you're going to be like a total defensive genius like José Aldo, gonna have a bad time. And like, I know honestly, one of the first things I thought, and I think about it at every fight of this Marlon Vera run, and it's dumb because I shouldn't think this, but like, that's just how the MMA community has warped my brain, I guess. For like, one of the first things I thought was like, and people still think this dude beating Sean O'Malley was a fluke. Like, he would bundle Sean O'Malley in a rematch. He's just that guy. Like, he is going to fight for a title one day. I'm not sure he's going to win it, but he's a problem, and he's incredibly fun to watch fight.
Evan, what did you think? Because my first reaction was, and it was almost the same reaction I had after the Rob Font fight, this dude is a zombie. You can hit him 1,000,000 times and it doesn't even affect him. The man doesn't even look like he fights. He shows up to these press conferences, doesn't even have a blemish on his face, no marks, no nothing. It doesn't even look like, it's like he's a guest fighter when he shows up to these press conferences. Even though he gets hit a bunch, it shows nothing. So what did you think of yet another fantastic performance? The man is just crushing it right now.
Oh man, he's spectacular, man. When he landed that head kick, when Dominic fell, I was like, oh my gosh, I was scared for Dominic's life. I mean, it was a rough one. Glad to see he's okay, but yeah, Cheeto is a absolute problem. Especially coming from like a fighter standpoint. Just going back and analyzing the fight, his eyes, his comfortability, his capability of switching stances. He's got power from orthodox and southpaw. He's constantly making reads. Like that's the most impressive thing is I think his ability to stay calm under pressure, and you can tell he's always setting stuff up. So going in, I think in the third round he really started seeing how much Dom was leading one way or the other when he was exiting, and he threw a 1-3 into a real leg roundhouse, almost caught him in the third round with it, and then he switched it up and did it to the other side. He dropped him with a jab in the fourth round, and now he had him really worried about that left hand, and he started slipping outside that lead hand a lot, and it caused him to lean straight into that high kick. Man, it was nice, but yeah, Cheeto he's an absolute monster, and I think he's definitely going to be fighting for the title soon.
So this bantamweight division, Evan, is just wild right now. There's a lot happening. We got the title fight coming up in October between Aljamain Sterling and TJ Dillashaw. We got Petr Yan, Sean O'Malley fighting on the same card. José Aldo is fighting Merab Dvalishvili this Saturday at UFC 278. What does this win, in your opinion, do for Chito Vera? Like, what's his next move? How do you think this shakes out?
I think there's a lot of unanswered questions. I think we're gonna have to wait and see how a lot of things unfold. We have the Merab and Aldo fight coming up. We're obviously gonna have to see what happens there because Merab's not gonna fight Aljamain. So, if he does win, I think it probably puts him a little bit closer. Just out of technicality, just because he's not gonna be fighting Aljo. So. But if Aldo wins, I think he's more. I think he deserves a shot more. And then, like you were saying, Petr Yan and Sean O'Malley. We'll have to see how that unfolds. I think Petr Yan should take that, but who knows, man? I mean, that's Sean O'Malley I think a lot of people discredit him because he's got such a big kind of like a hype train because of all the craziness behind him. He's super super flashy. But he's legitimately really good, man. He's legitimately really good. He's got really good, hard to read kicks. He's super long and tall for the weight division. So he poses a lot of problems, man. That 135 division is freaking stacked, as is every division in the UFC, but especially 35, man. I'm excited to see the way things unfold, but I think more than likely Cheeto is probably gonna have to wait at least another fight, probably get another fight before he gets to the title. But no matter what, I'm excited to see how all of it plays out because I think any matchup you make in the top, that top 5 or 10 is going to be freaking fireworks.
Yeah, a lot of congestion here, Jed. What's next for Marlon Vera? Is this a wait and see? Is there somebody that stands out right now? The Sean O'Malley fight is one of those sort of back pocket fights. They can go to that well whenever they need to. If they need it for like a number 1 contender fight, they can just go to it. If they just need to fill a big spot on a card, they can go back to that pretty much anytime they want because the story's there and people will watch that fight. So if you got the mighty pencil right now, what are we doing with Marlon Vera? Or is this, like Evan said, a sort of wait and see thing?
You have to wait a little bit. It's really unfortunate is the short answer here because Cheeto wants to stay active, which is great for us, the fans. We get to watch him. Problem is, like this run he has right now could have gotten him a title shot at different points in time. But there's just so much happening right in the mix at the top of the division that he's probably third in line, like based on what shakes out next. Like some of this is just going to depend on how, like what the hell breaks, right? Because if Aldo beats Merab and Aljo retains his title over TJ Dillashaw, they are more than likely going to do Aldo versus Aljo like that, unless somehow Sean O'Malley upsets Petr Yan. That's the number one. If Petr Yan loses Sean O'Malley is getting a title fight. It does not matter what the hell else is going on. That is almost a certainty. I don't think that's likely to happen. And in that case, then if Dillashaw beats Sterling, they probably give a title shot to Petr Yan because they'll do the Yan Dillashaw thing. There's a little bit of juice there. And the UFC absolutely loves Petr Yan, which then leaves Aldo sort of odd man outed, which sucks ass. So it all is going to break, but the end result is Marlon Vera is not going to get a fight, like not going to get a title fight. And unfortunately, I kind of think that any of the people he would fight next to get one are likely to beat him, even though they'll be really fun fights. I think the most likely outcome here is that Aldo gets the next title fight, and then Cheeto fights Petr Yan in a title eliminator. And that fight's going to rule, but I do think Petr Yan probably beats him. But, no wrong way to eat this Reese's, really. It's going to be great any way it goes down.
Yes, and if I'm Cheeto, just poke and prod Henry Cejudo. Just keep doing it over and over again, because that fight makes so much sense. Like,
it
if
does,
Cejudo really
but
wants
Henry
to come
Cejudo
back,
isn't going to fight. So why are we talking about it? You said it yourself, Mike. You said on not no, you were not going to talk about this man because he ain't for real. He is all gas, just all smoke. He don't want actual smoke, so don't talk about him because he ain't coming. And he damn sure isn't coming to fight Cheeto Vera. He'll get the Twitter fingers going, but he's not going to fight that man because he wants to fight Dominick Cruz for a title fight he wants a low risk fight against Alexander Volkanovski because if he loses, it's no downside for him to lose that fight, but the win is immeasurably high. He ain't going to fight Cheeto Vera, which offers a very little upside and tremendous downside to this greatest combat sports athlete of all time thing he's trying to parade about. That dude ain't doing it.
I'm trying to be more positive here about this situation, and then I could praise him a little bit because I have not praised him at all since this announcement of a comeback. But you mentioned it. Last thing on this, Jed. What about Dominick Cruz? Because, like we've talked about, he looked good in this one. He had success early on. Obviously, a tough way to go out. Tough video for him to have to go back and watch. But he hung with Cheeto for over 3 rounds. Was winning the fight heading into the 4th on all 3 scorecards. I saw a lot of Cruz slander, a lot of Cruz negativity after this fight. People were calling for him to retire, which to me seems super egregious. But his road to getting back to a title fight is much further of a journey now, and that's probably putting it lightly. Now what do we do with the former bantamweight champion?
I'm not certain his road back to a title fight is further away just because he's Dominick Cruz. And I want to be extremely clear. I am a huge Dominick Cruz hater. I was slandering that man all leading up to this fight, and I'll continue to do so forever because that's just how I feel. That being said, he is undeniably a darling of the UFC. He is one of the bigger names in the division. Historically, maybe the greatest bantamweight of all time. And so there are options for him. And I think if he gets 1 or 2 wins, he is for sure going to call for a title fight because that's just what Dominick Cruz does. And it's possible for him to do so. I think that there are two possible answers here. I think the one that makes the most sense to me, and I don't think that there's a booking here yet, but Frankie Edgar wants to fight at Madison Square Garden and be done with his career. That is the fight that makes the most sense to me. You do it. It's 2 legends. Frankie even still has a ranking according to the UFC, so like that won't hurt Dom's aspirations in that regard. You just book that. The other possible here is if TJ Dillashaw loses to Aljamain Sterling, go ahead and run that one right on back. And then you've got like those are back pocket fights for him, and I think it makes the most sense for where he's at right now. Unless the UFC is just shot of him and are going to feed him to like Ricky Simone or something who will just beat the shit out of him.
Evan, what say you? If you have the matchmaking pencil here, Dominick Cruz versus blank, fill in the blank.
Man, I think the Frankie Edgar fight, just like Jed was just saying, is almost a no-brainer right now. I think I feel a little bit different about. I do think that takes him a little bit further away from the title, this last loss, and with him being 37, I believe, he's got to be approaching the end of his career. Not just because of his age, but his years in the game, due to true legend and as a pioneer. And man, he did with all that being said, man, I thought he looked great in that fight. I was very impressed, and he was he was definitely up the first 2 rounds for sure. And he was doing great, even when he was getting rocked, he was staying right there in the fight. He wasn't shying away from nothing. And then just, got caught bad. I don't think he just got caught. I'm not saying Cheeto got lucky by any means. I think he very strategically set that up. But I think the Dillashaw fight is definitely sellable. So if Dillashaw loses, which is there's a good possibility. I think that's an easy matchup, and that would actually really put him right back in the running for title contention. But those two options are probably the only two that I think are going to be, or the best two anyways, because I do think, unfortunately, a lot of other matchups in the top 5, top 10 are going to be rough for Dom. But with all that being said, he impressed the shit out of me on whenever he just fought Cheeto. So we'll see.
I would love the Frankie Edgar fight. That's a fight I need to see before either or both men retire. I just don't know if it's going to be too soon after getting brutally knocked out. I mean, it's still 3 months away, but still, that was a very bad knockout. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And listen, Cody Garbrandt's fighting Ronnie Yaya October 1st. Garbrandt comes back and gets a win. Maybe we run that one back too. I mean, he does have some options, but
what if Ronnie Yaya knocks out Cody Garbrandt?
You're coming on the post-fight show because I would love to hear your reaction.
Oh, God, that'll be the best. It'll be the funniest thing that's ever happened in the sport if Ronnie Yaya knocks out Cody Garbrandt.
Well, then there you go. Then Ronnie Yaya could fight Dominick Cruz, and who would want to watch that?
Do you remember when Cody Garbrandt was going to fight Davison Figueiredo? Jesus, that was going to be the most fun I've ever had watching a fist fight. Just get launched to the moon. That would have been hilarious.
Well, listen, UFC San Diego was a lot of fun. The battle of the Yasmins was tremendous. Nate Landwehr, David Onama, absolutely insane. We saw some good finishes, good card. But the UFC is back on pay-per-view on Saturday, and that's where we're going to be heading for a little bit. The point for round 1 goes to the fighter. Evan Elder on the board. It's 1-0. Like when we get the
Appreciate
fighter's
that.
perspective.
Generous.
Very generous. But you obviously haven't watched the show very long. You know that these points ultimately at the end of the day don't mean anything. It all comes down to the very end. But unless Jed's hosting, then we don't go down to the very end.
That's right.
But let's go to UFC 278, Salt Lake City, Utah. This Saturday, welterweight title on the line. Kamaru Usman defends against Leon Edwards. It's been actually really interesting seeing and hearing the views on this fight, Evan, because I host a morning show on the MMA Fighting Twitter Spaces, and a lot of people who have called in this week feel that not only does Leon Edwards have a chance to win this fight, but he has a very good chance to win this fight, which is kind of shocking to me. And we'll talk about some of the intangibles as to why in a moment, but I guess right off the bat, how much of a chance are you giving Leon Edwards in this fight, and why?
I mean, I'm definitely not counting him out. His last fight with Law, man, he looked phenomenal. I really wish, I'm sorry, not his last fight, he fought Nate last, but recent fight, he looked phenomenal, man. And I really wish that didn't end so unfortunately with the eye poke. And it was bad. I mean, it was a bad eye poke, and Bilal was a freaking warrior, man. He would have fought. That dude still wanted to fight with no eye, I'm sure. But that would have really tested or gave me a little more insight on how well he's going to do to start, to defend the takedowns of Usman, because I think that's ultimately what Usman's going to avert to early on, just in my opinion, because I think that Leon has an advantage in the speed department and in the length. So I think that right off the bat, he might be able to pose a little bit of a problem with Kamaru striking. So I think Kamaru is going to try to close the distance, clinch with him. He's got to watch for those elbows, those short, tight elbows that Leon's so good at timing and hitting off the breaks. But if he can grapple him up for a round or two, I think Kamaru is the much mentally stronger, more consistent fighter as the fight will go on. And I think that as the longer the fight goes, the more it plays into Usman's favor. So, I mean, I think, man, Usman, in my opinion, he's a pound for pound number one for a reason, man. I think the biggest thing that separates him more than anybody, the reason that man is who he is his mind. His, obviously he's got all the technical skills, but that dude's mind is different. What's amazing is that it's so easy to have an off night in this sport. You come out, you're whether the nerves get to you, the emotions are high, you had a bad weight cut, you had just life going on throughout fight camp, got in the way, whatever it may be. It's very easy to have an off night. And I'm sure that Kamaru Usman has had an off night in the cage, but that man his mind is so strong. He's so different that he is yet to really show it, And I think that is really going to be the biggest factor in this fight. If Leon doesn't just clip him and take him out early, which is still, definitely a possibility because especially with the high kicks, if he can come out, I think if Leon comes out just hot and just tries putting him away, he has a chance of catching him. But I think if it goes long at all, I think Kamaru is going to pull away.
Jed, for longtime viewers of this program and many of the other great programs on the MMA Fighting Network, you have proudly, and I mean proudly, driven the nobody cares about Leon Edwards monster truck. And you've done this for as long as I have worked with you.
They don't.
And for
Spot
a while,
the lie, Mike. Spot the lie.
For a while, you felt like Usman would go on and win this fight, and Edwards' title hopes would be in the rearview mirror. However, I did listen to No Bets Barred. At least it was a long show, so I haven't listened to all of it, but I did listen to you guys discuss the main event. And you, like a lot of others that I've spoken with this week, feel that Leon has a pretty good chance to win this fight here. Why do you feel that way?
I don't think he has a pretty good chance to win this fight. I think he has a chance to win this fight. A lot of that is me fading Kamaru because I've been kind of ready to do that for a while now because it's mostly the intangible stuffs, right? So Kamaru's 35 or 36, not sure which, but he's certainly getting older, especially the lighter the weight class, the less you can age gracefully historically. His knees are bad, and he's been pretty open about that. And his performances have been worse in all of his recent fights. Colby Covington came out like a house on fire, but I think everyone just sort of forgets the back half of that fight where Kamaru kind of got beat up by Colby Covington as the fight went down the stretch there. Like just because he was so dominant early over Covington. Gilbert Burns obviously dropped him at least once, maybe a couple of times. And had him in real trouble. And the Jorge Masvidal rematch was, we all forget because of that was the KO of the year or whatever. But that first round was really competitive, and I have respect for Jorge Masvidal in general. I don't think he's anywhere close to a top actual welterweight in the world, and so that gives me a lot of concern that the Usman's performances are less the sort of dominant, especially the dominant grappling heavy performances that he had in his whole rise up, like he just hasn't been shooting a lot of takedowns or doing any of that. And I think there's some of that's probably a style matchup, right? Like he doesn't want to go to the ground with Gilbert Burns, who's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion. And Colby Covington you just don't wrestle him defensively, wrestle. He's a better striker, etc. But I don't know, man. Like I think he needs to do that against Edwards because I think Kamaru Usman can win anywhere this fight goes, I guess is my take on it, because he is the more powerful striker. I think Leon Edwards is a technically superior striker to Kamaru, but he also has some huge defensive liabilities at points in time. And the big issue for Edwards is Edwards can't really hurt people. Like he's done it sometimes, but he hasn't done it in 10 years or something. Like he doesn't have one hitter quitter really hurt you on the feet power. And so I don't think he can come out and just try and blow the doors off Usman because that's not his game. He just wants to kind of out kickbox you. But again, he has defensive liabilities. He has lapses. That's why everyone talks about the Nate Diaz, almost put him away in the last minute. And that is absolutely true because Leon just sort of, I don't know, had a brain fart or whatever and got clocked. Nate was clocking him a lot in the middle section of that fight. He was getting outshot like a ton, but he was having moments where he was landing big shots in the third, fourth round as well. Because sometimes Leon just loses the plot a little bit in the exchanges. If he does it against Kamaru Usman, he's going to get obliterated. Like that's Usman is not a brilliant striker, but he's a very decent one for MMA. He has a very, very solid jab. He's got a lot of power, and he's really good eyes, really good timing in the space. So I think Usman can win this on the feet. If he can get the grappling going, it's his to lose. But I do think that if Edwards can fight a really good fight, he is in a good position here because I think the leg kicks can be really effective for him. I think he can jab with Usman. And I think if he can take this into the later rounds, the leg kicks can start taking advantage. And Usman, who I feel faded against Colby Covington, even when Colby wasn't pushing a big pace that fight, like I think Leon can maybe have success there. My fundamental issue here is that I think Leon has to fight close to a perfect fight, and I think Kamaru does not have to fight close to a perfect fight to win. And so I think Leon has a chance, but like it's really hard to say that you're going to fight 25 perfect minutes against arguably the best fighter in the world right now. Like that's a really tall task.
You guys talked about sort of the technical breakdown and the technical deficiencies between these two guys, but I want to go back to you, Jed, because a lot of the reason why people are telling me that they like Leon Edwards to win this fight is because Usman has a lot going on right now. He has big aspirations in and out of the octagon. He says he wants to be bigger than The Rock. He's been talking about moving to 205, landed a cool guest spot in a big movie. He's talked about boxing Canelo Alvarez. And I need Jed real quick. I'll go to you, Evan. I will definitely get your opinion on this. Let me get Jed's pretty face on here. And there are a lot of people throughout this build, Leon Edwards included, who feel like Usman's head essentially just might not be fully in the game here. And when you're locked in a cage with another person, that's bad news. You know, and you talked about he's had knee issues. He's had the hand injury that's kept him out since late last year. He's a win away from tying Anderson Silva's win streak record. He's looking to keep cementing this legacy that's so important to him. And he feels like he's the best fighter on the planet. He feels like he's the best welterweight of all time. And if he loses on Saturday, Jed, all of that goes away. Every bit of it, everything he's built towards, gone. So to play devil's advocate, Usman is a competitor. And you've talked a lot about how difficult it is for a long reigning champion to continue to be a long reigning champion. And with the success that these guys have comes a little bit of mental warfare. And he's got Leon biting a little bit, feeling like maybe Usman's head is not really in the game here. Is there a chance that there is some mental warfare being played by Kamaru Usman, some gamesmanship on Usman's part heading into Saturday, maybe making Leon believe that this is going to be a little bit easier of a time than a lot of people thought it might be?
I doubt it, just because I don't know what the point and purpose would be. Because I don't. If you ever talk to Leon Edwards, like that dude fundamentally believes he is the best fighter in the world. Like there's not an ounce of question in his soul, and so he doesn't need any validation or any thoughts he's going to have easier. Like Leon Edwards knows he is never getting a title fight again. Like this is it. And that's why I say all the time that the hardest thing to do in professional sports is be a long reigning champion. Like it is, you're getting everybody's best shot every time up. And even if that dude who's actually doing it is one of the, not even a top 20 all time guy at that weight, doesn't matter. He has spent his whole life focusing on this moment. You're going to get the absolute pinnacle of him. And Leon Edwards knows without a shadow of a doubt how long it took him to get here. The fact that he really only got here in some parts because he's been very lucky with timing, and the UFC didn't just decide to push Khamzat over him. Instead, he knows that this is it. This is his one shot, and he is going to do everything possible to win this fight. And to speak to Evan's point earlier, I don't give a ton of credence to the Usman's overlooking him thing, just because I think Usman is a very focused guy in that regard. And I think that he recognizes that this is probably the win that seals everything for him in a lot of respects, because if he gets this win, he probably doesn't have to fight Khamzat, and which would be very helpful for him because I think Khamzat beats him. But yeah, I kind of just don't think – I think this is just Kamaru saying what's in his heart, which is yeah, man, like this is it. I'm going to focus. I'm going to fight this guy. But I have these other aspirations because I think I'm great. And we'll see if he gets to do any of them. But yeah, I don't think it's gamesmanship. I think it's just him speaking his truth.
What do you think, Evan? Like, how have you gauged Usman's approach from a fighter's perspective? And sort of to Jed's point, who has more pressure on them? Is it Usman trying to continue to cement this legacy, or is it a guy like Leon Edwards who, like Jed said, this is probably it? Like, you've worked all this time to get to a title fight. They finally went with you. If you don't get it done here, you may not get another shot.
Yeah, honestly, to that point, I think the more of the pressure would probably just from this fight alone, I think the pressure would probably be more on Usman just because I feel like, he's a pound for pound, number one fighter in the world. He's trying to cement this legacy, and I feel like he has more to lose, but exactly like Jed was saying, this is probably Leon's only shot. So, this is it. And for that reason, I think more of the pressure probably is on Leon. But with that being said as well, Leon truly believes that he's the best fighter, best welterweight in the world, so who knows how he's carrying that mentally, because if he really truly believes that, maybe he's not putting as much pressure on himself as we may think, saying that this is his only shot. Maybe he doesn't care if he loses. He's willing to work his way back, like even if it takes forever. Even though I feel like that's very unlikely. And, I think there's a lot of pressure for both guys. But I do think that all the stuff that Usman has going on, man, life gets in the way a lot. It's when you're training, it's always a full-time job, training 2-3 times a day, cutting weight. I mean, it's a lifestyle. So if you have a lot of other stuff going on, pulling you other directions, man, it's difficult, because it's a lot of stuff that people don't realize. You're not just going to the gym, like, oh, I gotta get my hour workout in, twice a day. Like, it's 2 hours out of the day, right? But it's not. It's you're getting there 30 minutes to an hour early to warm up to prevent injuries. You're staying 30 minutes to an hour after, getting some extra reps, extra work, stretching out, to also, do some prehab, prevent injuries from happening. So with that alone, you're there. It's not just a 1 hour practice. It's a 2-3 hour practice twice a day. On top of that, you're going home to eat correctly because you got to cut weight. You can't, it's hard to eat out whenever you're trying to cut weight. There's all kinds of freaking everywhere you go, it's very challenging to eat super correct to actually cut weight the way we have to. So you're most likely going to be going right home, or you need to anyways, to eat the correct food. You're probably going to rest in between training. And then super underlooked, what a lot of people don't think about is how important rest is. So it's like you need to be getting, 8 hours of sleep a night is like a minimum. That's what the average person should be really getting, to properly recover, let alone a full-time professional athlete that's demanding so much out of their body. It's not crazy to think that, we don't need 9 or 10 hours of rest some days, so it's a full 24-hour job, whenever you incorporate rest and recovery and, warming up stuff after practice, obviously the training, the nutrition aspect, it's a lifestyle, man. So it definitely 100% makes things a lot harder whenever you have a lot of stuff going on in life, and that's life. And to Jed's point, I think it's unbelievably difficult to be a long reigning champion because, for one, you have that people have a blueprint. You're the person that everybody's preparing for, and you're the person that they're trying to take out. So, I don't know. I would say both guys have an immense amount of pressure on them. I think both of them are freaking handling it well. They're that's why they're two of the greatest fighters in the world. It's because their mental capability. But I would say more of the pressure probably lies on Usman as far as how much he has to lose. I think that people expect him to beat Leon. So Leon has less to lose for sure. But, with that being said, Leon might not be able to get another title shot. So this might be his only chance.
Last thing on this before we move on, Evan, if Usman wins and Chimaev wins, true or false, that's the next fight.
Yeah, I feel like almost undoubtedly, the Chimaev train is just freaking full steam ahead. Nobody's stopping that thing. There's so much hype around him, and rightfully so, man. That dude's earned it. He's a killer. That's a crazy fight, and I think that's 100%. I don't see any other matchup being made if Usman wins this weekend.
Jed, better chance he fights Chimaev if both guys win, or he goes to 205 and fights somebody else?
So on the whole 205 tip, I get it. I recognize this is a thing, and cool, good for him. Like, I think it's at least funny gimmick, and maybe not a gimmick because like that's a barren wasteland of a division. So who the hell knows? He could probably do okay there. I think we're really just overlooking the middleweight's really like truly an option for him because I know he doesn't want to fight Israel Adesanya, but Israel Adesanya has a fight against dude who's beaten him twice. That's coming up, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. If Alex Pereira obliterates it, like just knocks Izzy's head off, Izzy doesn't get a middleweight title fight again. Like, I'm sorry, you just don't, because I know that kickboxing and MMA are not the same sports, but at that point, one guy has clearly won the rivalry. I know that there's not the grappling, but Izzy ain't going to shoot a double and jits him on the floor or whatever. He's just going to get knocked out again. So at that point, Izzy then, what's he left to do but say, I guess maybe I'll actually make my move to 205, which then opens the door for our guy Kamaru to come up to middleweight and face Alex Pereira. And that is a huge fight. If Pereira knocks out Izzy, and Usman's like, I'm going to come up, I'm going to get revenge for my boy. Yeah, you can't grapple for shit. And I'm going to show that to be true. That is, I think, a bigger fight than the Hamzat fight, frankly, like if that goes down. So I think there's a world where that could be what happens, depending on the timelines that everything breaks. But I will say the most likely scenario here is that we get Usman Chimaev at the end of the year, or maybe early next year, which kind of sucks because I think Chimaev is going to beat him, and then that takes the Usman Pereira fight potentially off the board, which would be incredibly fun.
More on this card in round 3. That's a bold statement that Usman Pereira would be bigger than Usman Chimaev. Maybe you're right. We'll see.
If Pereira beats Izzy, like if they did it right now, it wouldn't be. But if Pereira goes and knocks out Izzy, that dude is a star in this sport. And the storyline you can build behind it, 100% think so. Also, because we're about to go to the point, I do think it's interesting that neither of us mentioned that these two dudes have fought before. And I think that is actually like, I think that in any of those situations, I always feel like the person who won the first one, like far more than I think Usman's overlooking him because he's doing movies or whatever. I think it's like Usman already beat this dude convincingly, and Edwards has a chip on his shoulder because of that. Like that is far more at play to me than he's talking about 205 and Canelo stuff.
Fair point. Let's move to the rest of the card. Point for round 2 goes to gotta go with Jed here. It's 1-1. Compelling insight on this main event. So, Jed, let's talk about the co-main event because there's an awful lot going on here. It's becoming the most anticipated fight on the card. The always interesting Paulo Costa looking for his first win in 3 years, taking on Luke Rockhold, who returns for the first time in 3 years and looking for his first win in 5 years. Both guys making a lot of headlines for stuff outside of this fight. Paulo Costa, social media game is just incredible. Leaves his manager to be repped by his girlfriend. There's questions on whether or not he can even make 186, although he's very confident he will tomorrow morning. And he confirmed yesterday at the media day, last fight on his deal. And now we have Luke Rockhold, who has been very vocal, chastising the UFC, chastising media members, chastising the UFC's business practices. He had a crazy interview with Helwani. His media day was the most talked about by far. How much more interesting has this fight become due to the build to it, especially this week?
It's way more interesting now than I thought I would think it was on like Sunday. First, let me start here. You talk about both these dudes are looking for a win. Both of them are looking for an ounce of body fat because this is an all body beautiful matchup right here. Because Paulo Costa is shredded. If you have not seen his social media posts, if he can't make 186, there's no way. Like he's either going to or can't because he has nothing to lose here for that. And same for Rockhold. They are both just absolutely shredded. So I just wanted to start there because respect for what they've accomplished in the gyms beforehand. Second, this fight has gotten oddly more compelling outside of the stuff that they're talking about, which is, I mean, that was always at least interesting because Paulo Costa is kind of a head case and Luke Rockhold is head case might not be the right word. He's something. He's something. And so they're like that always made this a little bit interesting. I also found it interesting. I wrote about it for the site this morning. Both Michael Bisping and Anthony Smith, two gentlemen who don't particularly care for Luke Rockhold, though I know Bisping and Rockhold have kind of squashed their beef now. Anthony Smith still hates the dude. Both of them think he's going to beat Costa, which is flies in the face to me of logic, reason, and history. But I can see the argument because, like I said it on No Bets Barred, great podcast. Go check it out earlier this week. And I've said it for years, and I will continue to say it because I genuinely believe it to be true. Luke Rockhold is the most predatory offensive grappler I have ever seen in this sport. That includes Khabib Nurmagomedov. That includes, I mean, John Jones back in the day when he would take people down and elbow them in the face. If you watch Luke Rockhold fight, every single second that he is on top of a human being, it is dire straits for the guy on bottom. Like it is an Animal Planet pride of lions attacking a gazelle. Like it is, watch him beat Chris Weidman to death. It was horrifying to watch that. Weidman was winning the fight through a stupid spin kick, got taken down, and the fight was basically over from that moment on. And Chris Weidman can grapple. He is a good grappler, and it does not matter. That dude is a whole other world of offensive grappling if he's got top position. And he tried to do it to Jan Blachowicz, but he's not a takedown guy. And so if he finds his way on top of Paulo Costa, he is going to kill Paulo Costa. Like I have zero doubts. If you told me coming into this fight, Luke Rockhold will end up on top at one point, I'm like, cool, he wins the fight, guaranteed. But I don't know that he can do it. And another thing that I don't know he can do is see left hooks. Because every time someone throws one at him, it knocks him out. And Paulo Costa is pretty good at punching people really hard. So I think that Paulo Costa is going to win this fight. The matchup is very compelling. And the fact that they are both talking so much, not even about each other really, but sort of at each other, like offshooting of each other, while Luke is really focused on his UFC thing. And who the hell knows what Paulo Costa is focused on? It has become an oddly more compelling than just about any other fight on the card. And so I'm here for it. Like a fight that I thought I was not going to be that excited about, I'm far more interested in come Saturday.
Evan, how is your intrigue built for this fight in particular on Saturday?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel like it's definitely very intriguing now. It's much more so than I originally anticipated. I actually really like both fighters, so I was already excited for the fight. But as far as how it's going to play out, I think there's a lot of different variables. I think that Paulo Costa is either going to come out really hot because he's probably very frustrated and feels like he's got something to prove after getting freaking dominated. So I think that can either be play to his advantage if he can back Rockhold up and get him up against the cage, kind of take away his movement. I think that he could really probably do a lot of damage, and I don't think Luke's chin might not hold up. But with that being said, if he comes out too hot and is just walking into stuff and is, being mindless whenever he's, kind of being a little too reckless with his aggression, which is a definitely a possibility because, like Jed was saying, he's definitely a little bit of a head case. And I don't like that, he's had so many excuses for the reasons that he's lost. Man, that's one of my favorite things about fighting, man, is just like, dude, there's no excuses, no matter what it was. If you got in the cage ready to fight, I mean, it's extreme ownership. Everything 100% is on you. That's the way it is. And so I don't like that. I don't like all the excuses. And I think that actually shows I think that actually shows a little bit of a flaw or a weakness in his mindset, which I believe is the most important thing when it comes to fighting. On the flip side of that, I do think Luke Rockhold is probably the more technical fighter. But like I was saying, I worry about the pressure and, Paulo Costa being able to break him a little bit. But I think if Luke Rockhold could stay on the outside, attack the calf kicks, not get backed up, make sure to be moving angles, not taking more than 1 or 2 steps straight back. He has to, as soon as he takes 1 or 2 steps straight back, he has to change an angle and get the hell away from the cage. Because I think if he can get, if Paulo Costa gets him up against the cage and starts unleashing, I think there's a really good chance that Costa puts him away. But man, the fight has definitely got way more interesting here lately. So I'm super excited to see the way it plays out. And honestly, I could really see it going either way. Because like I said, I think Luke Rockhold is definitely the more technical fighter. And as Jed was saying, if he gets it to the ground, that dude is an absolute savage. Like, it is unbelievable. The level of MMA grappling, not just jiu-jitsu or, any other type of just, combat grappling, but MMA grappling is very different. Whenever you can be on top of somebody and just beat them up, things change a lot, so I think if he gets it to the ground, I think it's going to be Luke Rockhold easy. But getting it there might be a problem. And I think Paulo Costa's got to come out and put pressure on him, but got to be very smart. He can't just be walking forward and walking into shots. He's got to be cutting off the cage and trying to find a way to get Luke to the cage.
Who needs this one more, Evan? Obviously, it's important for both guys. All you fighters say that every fight is a must win. That's the mentality you guys have. But who needs to win more? You have Paulo Costa, who hasn't won a fight in a long time, still hasn't really gotten over the loss to Adesanya. He's betting on himself, last fight on his deal. Or Luke Rockhold, coming back after 3 years, who, by the way, if you look at this middleweight division right now, if Israel Adesanya beats Alex Pereira at UFC 281 and Luke Rockhold goes out there and finishes Paulo Costa, there is a real world that we live in that Luke Rockhold could find himself in a title fight sometime next year. So who needs this one
most
more?
likely scenario, not even a real world. Like, that's the most likely outcome.
100%.
That's crazy.
If both of those two things happen, Luke Rockhold is getting a title fight.
Yes. So who needs this one more?
Yeah. I think, in my opinion, I think Paulo Costa needs it more. Because I think Luke has a lot of stuff going on outside of MMA, and he's had such a good career. Another veteran pioneer of the sport, and dude, if worst case scenario happens, he comes out, gets slept or whatever, dude, I don't think it's gonna ruin him, But I do think, on the other hand, Paulo Costa, I think a big part of why he has so many excuses for when he loses, and why I think that's such a big flaw in his mindset, is because I think that he identifies. This is his identity. Like, this is not just a role. This isn't something he does. This is his identity, which seems on the surface like it'd be a good thing. You want to have this is your only purpose for living. Like, this is who you are. I'm a fighter. But when things go wrong, I feel like that can really weigh on you heavy and really cause you, a lot of stress on your mind to not be able to think clearly. And that's why I was saying that I think that he might come out and be a little too aggressive and not be, clearly thinking, because all he's thinking about is, like, I have to win, not thinking about how to win, but have to win. And I think that it definitely is much more detrimental for Paulo Costa to lose this fight than Luke Rockhold. Because, like I was saying, I think Luke's got a lot of other stuff going on. I think he's already had super impressive career. Paulo Costa, I feel like, still has a lot to offer. And I feel like if he loses this fight, it's really going to take away from his career. If he doesn't, it's going to put him, hopefully he doesn't get cut, obviously, but who knows? And I think much more pressure is on Paulo Costa to win this fight than Luke Rockhold.
Jed, do you agree with that?
I mean, in like life, yeah, because I think everything Evan said right there is correct. Like Luke Rockhold has other things to do in his life, and I don't know that Paulo Costa does. I think the flip side of the argument here really is if Luke Rockhold loses this, maybe he fights again, but like he is never going to be a real going concern in the middleweight division again. He's 37 or something like that. He's like older, knocked out. If he loses, he's gonna get knocked out. So, been knocked out 4 of his last 5 fights. Like if he loses it, then all of the because Evan has said not incorrectly about Paulo Costa's excuses. Luke is not a man opposed to excusing some of his outcomes as well. And he has talked a lot, bravely and openly about some of the struggles he faced and how that adversely affected him. But when the rubber hits the road, if he goes in there and gets got again, like then maybe that wasn't the issues aren't all the other stuff that are affecting you. It is that your defense is bad. You keep getting punched in the face, and you're not able to do that very well. And so, in the strictly MMA sense, I do think Luke Rockhold has the most to lose here. I would also say that this would be the worst. Like all of Luke Rockhold's other losses are fairly explicable. Jan Blachowicz, light heavyweight champion. Yoel Romero, we all know my love for Yoel Romero. Michael Bisping, Hall of Famer, like Vitor Belfort, probably not going to actually be in the Hall of Fame because of everything, but like a legitimate MMA Hall of Famer. Like those are all very explicable losses. Paulo Costa is one that is a much, much tougher pill to swallow.
I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about José Aldo taking on Merab Dvalishvili real quick.
You're damn straight. We better talk about the GOAT.
Well, I mean, I think I don't like talking about this fight because it's a damn travesty that José Aldo is not fighting for a title right now, but this is still an interesting fight. It's the purest main event. This is the Intercontinental title fight of UFC 278. Jed, I know how highly you think of José Aldo, and when this fight was announced, and even now, a lot of people feel like Merab is just going to smush José Aldo for 15 minutes, and I just ain't buying it. I'm just not buying it. So please, I want you to paint us a word picture. How's this fight going down on Saturday?
My deep and abiding José Aldo fandom and love refuses to let me see a world where Merab Dvalishvili wins this fight. But there's a great fear that at some point the feel-good story comes to an end. And she's like, oh yeah, like I know he's not technically that old, but he is ancient in fight years. And Merab's this new breed. But all that being said, my brain still thinks that José Aldo is supposed to win this fight. Like Merab Dvalishvili is a very good fighter. I have him very highly ranked in the MMA Fighting Rankings. Great website, great rankings. But I don't think his game works if he can't score takedowns. Like his striking is mostly enthusiasm and a willingness to do it, and that counts for a lot, especially in MMA. But like he is not a technical savant. And saw Marlon Vera tune him up. Like Marlon Vera was just banging him all around the cage for a good little stretch of time until Merab, ended up turning the tide with getting on top and wearing him down from there. But he gets hit a lot. I just don't think his striking skills line up well against José Aldo, who I think is inarguably the greatest defensive fighter in the history of the sport. I think he is going to be able to counter Merab on the feet. And I don't know if you know this, José Aldo, pretty damn good at not allowing the whole takedown thing. Built a career off of winning this exact style matchup. And if Jose loses, it is probably just a factor of times change. And he's a little older and Merab is still in his athletic prime, and that's just how it goes. But I think that this is a good style matchup for him. If he wasn't going to get a title fight, which I think he 100% should have gotten, I think this is the best other fight he could have gotten in this regard.
What do you think, Evan? How do you see this one going down?
Yeah, I completely agree 100%. I think that uh, he's already made a career fighting guys exactly like this. I think what would make this make a big difference in this fight is if Merab's striking was just a little bit better to set up the takedowns better. But unfortunately, I don't think it is. And I think with how defensively sound Jose Aldo is and how great his takedown defense, which I think correlate, they go hand in hand. He's very, very defensively sound, so he doesn't get caught off guard to where they can set up the takedowns as much. So I don't see Merab being able to take him down like everybody's thinking. I think Jose Aldo is going to come out and just like Marlon Morales, he's gonna start landing a lot of strikes. I really see it ending pretty quick. Maybe not very quick first round, but I don't see it going past the second round. I think Jose Aldo is going to put him out, whether it be
I love that.
just piecing him up on the feet, or catching him timing something as he's shooting in. But I think that Jose Aldo is really going to start touching him up, and then Merab's going to have to just start getting really desperate, diving in on shots. It's going to be even easier to defend. And with all due respect to Merab, because I think he's amazing, but I am also a huge Jose Aldo fan, and just stylistically, I think that it is a bad matchup for Merab.
A lot of love for Jose Aldo. I'll give my breakdown of the fight. It hasn't changed since the fight was announced. I feel exactly the same today as I did when we first saw the fight poster, and I will reveal that on the preview show tomorrow. We still got so much to talk about. Rapid fire potpourri round coming up next. The point for round 3 goes to 2 straight for Jed Meshew. It's 2-1. Good round.
Building momentum.
Yes, but we all know what's about to happen here, so we'll just have some fun. All right, this is a rapid fire round. We're going to touch on a couple of these for as long as time permits, some other news and notes in the sport of MMA. Evan, I'll begin with you with this question. We found out on Monday on the MMA Hour that Shane Burgos is no longer a UFC fighter. He is signed with the PFL. Your reaction to Shane Burgos turning the page and going after that Millie?
Man, I can't believe it. Hurricane Shane, man. I love that dude. I think he's one of the most exciting fighters. That dude's got the heart of a warrior. You will never see him in a boring fight. And I can't believe he's not with the UFC anymore, but I do think that he could make a very good career in PFL because, PFL has not only got a lot of talent, but obviously they have the $1 million tournament, and I think he has a very good shot of winning that. So, I hope all the best for him because, man, I'm a big fan of Shane. So, nothing but good wishes.
Jed, same question, and I want to add a little caveat to this because it is very rare that Dana White goes on in a public forum and says that the promotion made a mistake because he has said on multiple occasions.
I'm not sure he's ever done it before.
But he's done it here.
He's never admitted fault before.
Were you surprised by the decision, and are you surprised about Dana's reaction to Burgos moving on?
I am absolutely flabbergasted that Dana White admitted fault because he's just never done that. That's not who he is. I'm not surprised by Shane Burgos' decision because I'd like to read you a tweet that I made on this past weekend when I was covering the PFL for MMAfighting.com, great website. And we're going to take one of the words out of the tweet. The tweet is, if you're a heavyweight of any ability, why in God's name wouldn't you sign with the PFL immediately and win $1 million? Like Sergey Spivak, come be a millionaire instead of being a top 10-ish heavyweight. And well, I said that specifically about heavyweight because Ante Delija is facing Mateusz Shuffle for $1 million. I want to be clear, for $1 million American dollars, Ante Delija and Mateusz Shuffle are fighting. Cannot stress that number enough. I was like, I don't know why any good-ish, but like just a guy who's self-aware enough to be like, I'm probably not going to beat Francis Ngannou. And frankly, I'm probably not even going to get a title fight at him. Like, I should just go get $1 million. And I said that about the heavyweights because it's the most obvious at heavyweight because it is like, featherweight has some really good fighters in the PFL, actually. Chris Wade, Brendan Lone. are about, like, they're good guys. So it is much more difficult there. But Shane Burgos has a way, 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 way better chance of becoming a millionaire by signing with the PFL than he ever did at being in the UFC. So not surprised at all. Way to go, Shane Burgos. You made a good business decision.
All right. Next topic. Jed, if you could only watch one fight card on Saturday, what are you watching? PFL, or BKFC London?
Oh, so I don't get the UFC. Okay.
No, you don't.
Because I was just saying, like, the UFC card the main card is really good. Everything else is pretty mid. I mean, it has to be the PFL, I guess. I've never been a huge BKFC guy. I know a lot of people love it, and that's good for y'all. I was a little more sold after On the MMA Hour. Great program. Go check that out. Ariel did face off with Mike Perry and MVP, and Mike Perry, just a hilarious individual. Either the funniest intentional person ever, or the just incredibly funny unintentional person. I can't tell if he's in on the joke or not, but man, some of the things he says are spectacular. But that's all the fun that BKFC is offering me is that interaction there. Whereas the PFL, look, the heavyweights are a tough hang. I'm not gonna lie to you. Last weekend wasn't the world's best card, but you get to watch Kayla Harrison go to work. She's one of the best female fighters in the world. Chris Way, Brendan Lonan, as I mentioned, that's a really damn good fight. Larissa Pacheco. I actually think Larissa Pacheco is a really good fighter. She doesn't get the credit she probably deserves because women's lightweight isn't a real division, and she's most known for just periodically getting her ass beat by Kayla Harrison. But I do think she's a very good fighter. So give me the PFL if those are my two choices.
Evan, same question for you. PFL, Kayla Harrison, BKFC, Mike Perry versus MVP.
Hey, listen, I love Mike Perry. I love Mike Perry. He's freaking hilarious, and that's so funny what Jed was saying about. I don't know if it is intentional, man. I think that might just be who he is, and I don't think he's in on the jokes. I think he's just being 100% authentic, and he's like, man, why don't all these people laugh at everything I'm saying? But no, I think it's an interesting. I think the BKFC with MVP and Mike Perry is very interesting. But to be completely honest, and I hate to say it, and I have so much respect for all combat sport athletes, but I just don't really. I'm not a huge fan of BKFC. I think bare knuckle MMA would be much better than just bare knuckle boxing. But for that reason, I'm definitely would go with the PFL just because as a mixed martial artist connoisseur, I think that you're going to have a lot more actual skills and talent to watch, and much more of an art to see with the PFL with all the high level MMA fights. But like I said, no knock on anybody because I respect all combat sports athletes, and I like BKFC, but not anything tremendously.
Also, Mike,
I mean,
let's be very clear. The best thing to watch Saturday, arguably including the UFC, is Usyk Joshua 2. If I'm watching a non-UFC thing Saturday, it's Usyk Joshua 2. And there's even an argument to watch KSW, just even though their card is ratchet. It's still KSW, so it's fun. It's an awful card, but like, is it that much worse? Is it that much worse? And the production values are great.
Perry MVP is just, I'm just so interested to see how that fight actually looks. Like, I have a feeling it's not going to be the greatest, most action-packed fight of all time. I see a world where MVP just pieces Perry up for a while, but Perry's a dog, so it could be fun. But you get five post limbs with PFL.
Yeah. Also, Marcin Held is a post limb on PFL. Tough hang, buddy. Yeah. Post limbs are tough too, man. Yeah, none of these are good choice. Watch Usyk Joshua 2. Everybody do that with your time. That's a great use of your time.
And shout out to Elena Kolesnik, who has a chance to make it to the finals after everything she's gone through over this past year.
She is a lovely person. I got to meet her in Atlanta. She is a wonderful human being.
If you haven't checked it out, go to my pinned tweet. and check out either the article. I actually recommend you listen to the podcast because I just think it comes out so good. I actually listened to it today. I don't go back and listen to my work all that often, but I did go back and listen to that, and I was like, damn, I forgot how like sad this story is, but the redemption could be incredible. Last thing, Jed, Rory MacDonald announced his retirement from the sport after a brutal KO loss for the PFL last weekend. Your reaction, what will he be remembered for in your eyes?
I mean, it's good. It's a good retirement. Feels like it's going to stick when you hear him talk about it. He sounded a lot like Donald Cerrone when Cerrone retired, saying, I knew I wanted to retire for a while, but I wanted to make absolutely certain that it was time, that I was ready to go, that the game ain't in me no more. And that's what Rory sounded like. So I think this one's going to stick. It's a good time to go. He hasn't found success by transitioning to the PFL. By all accounts, he put everything he had into this past year to try and make it happen, and it's just not there for him anymore, and that's okay. Like, he had a great career. The thing he is going to be remembered for is very obviously the Robbie Lawler fight. I think that was 189. He will be enshrined in the UFC Hall of Fame at some point for that fight. It's tough to call it the highlight because he ends up losing that fight, but it is the fight that defines his career entirely. Even with being a Bellator welterweight champion, like that's just the fight that you think of. But great career. Probably not as good as people expected of him, but still a very, very solid career. I don't think he underachieved at all, which, there's a lot to be said for that. Like, he maybe didn't achieve what people wanted from him, but I think he achieved just about as much as he could have, and that's good.
Evan, Rory MacDonald retires. Your reaction?
Man, it's sad to me. Very similar to Cowboy, because I literally grew up watching these guys, and like those were actually two specific fighters that I looked up to a lot, especially Rory. I remember being like 16 years old, going out to California and doing got some training in at a gym out there, and being that young, Rory was young on the scene too, and he was, super young in the UFC, and they called me Rory MacDonald while I was out there because I was just, so young and, really trying to pursue my dream and everything. And that was like the coolest thing in the world to me because I had, that much admiration for Rory already. And so, to me, it was very sad, but also very happy because I do think it's definitely time. And I hate seeing like people like him that I look up to so much. Times change and life is hard. Life changes. He's got a family. He's got kids. He's got different obligations. Priorities may have changed. And fighting's tough, man. So, and just like I was saying earlier, it's 100% a full-time job. So if you're not given 24 hours of your day to it, it's hard to stay at the top. And I hate to see people's legacy, start getting tainted because we remember what we see last a lot of times. So, I'm glad to see him hang it up, and I hope the next chapter of his life is great because he's freaking definitely deserved it. And I'm very thankful, and I hope he's happy with the work that he's turned in because, man, he's a legend in my eyes. He's accomplished so much, and nothing but respect and admiration for the guy, and I hope his retirement treats him well.
Well said. With that said, it's time to give away the final point of regulation. Point for round 4 goes to it was a very close round, but Evan just tugged at the old heartstrings at the end there. It's 2-2. Which means we're going to have some fun, ladies and gentlemen, as expected. It doesn't really happen that often on the program, but we're going to go to the knockout round. Each participant will have 1 minute to answer a random question they have no idea about, although they probably do. It's not going to be incredibly crazy. Once that is over, there will be a poll on the MMA Fighting YouTube channel, which you are watching right now, and you can cast your vote for who you think won this week's edition of Between the Links. Jed, you are the winner of the most previous show that there was an actual competition. You know how this works. Do you want to go first, or do you want to Price is Right style and pass it on over to Evan?
Trying to think what question you would have here, because that defines how I want to play the game. For the sake of it, and because, Evan's first time, want to be generous, I'll go first. I'll let him see how it's done.
All right. Here we go.
I have honestly no idea what you're about to ask either, so
well,
maybe I'm brain farting because nothing's jumping out at me.
It's nothing crazy. But let's talk. We're going to talk UFC 278 one last time, Jed Meshew. One last time. What we're going to do is we're going to take the 3 main fights we already talked about and the heavyweight fight between Alexander Romanov and Marcin Tybura off the board altogether. What fighter, or storyline stands out the most outside of the big 4?
What the heck?
I know it's a little bit.
Why are you taking
might have to
my
dig a little
guy
bit
King
here?
Kong?
Because I knew you were going to go with that, and I'm not going to allow that to happen. You're as high on Romanov as I am, so it's not like I'm hearing anything new. So 1 minute on the clock, low key banger, low key storyline for UFC 278 outside of the 4 big fights. Go.
This is tough because let's be really honest. This is a 3-fight card, and I have a special place in my soul for heavyweights. And Alexander Romanov is probably going to challenge for a belt one day. So those are the 4. If I have to pick another one, low-key banger is tough. I will go ahead and say, though, just for the sake of it, and because this has become a bit of a meme on No Bets Barred, great podcast, Amir Albazi, Francisco Figueiredo. One, you love it when you've got the sibling of a UFC champion because they mostly aren't good. They're not like bad, but they mostly aren't good. Like one sibling gets all the talent. Antonina Shevchenko and Valentina Shevchenko comes to mind. He's going against Amir Albazi, who might be really damn good and is absolutely super exciting. And most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, flyweight unders, they never lose. So go ahead and bet that under 2.5 because I sure have, because they always cash, baby. Let's go.
There you go, Jed, trying to make some money for the people who are going to be casting votes. So
back.
Not a bad game plan. Not a bad game plan. Let's go to Evan. UFC 278. We're taking the 4 big fights with all the high stakes off the table. We have there's lots of opportunity here to emerge as maybe another star. Who knows? But we got some interesting matchups here. Outside of the 4 major fights, what's the low-key banger fighter storyline that you have your eye on as a fan? 1 minute on the clock. Go.
Man, I feel so bad. I'm drawing such a blank, but I'm gonna have to go with my boy Ange Lusa. I can't remember the name of the guy he's fighting.
AJ Fletcher.
Yes, Fletcher. But I have to go with that fight just because Lusa is my boy, and I mean he is seriously aside from him being a friend of mine, he is one of the most exciting fighters, and I think that dude's going to have such an amazing career in the UFC. If you watch his 2 fights that he's had, 1 fight on the Contender Series, 1 fight in the UFC, both losses, both incredible fights, like amazing fights. I think he's going to be one of the most exciting fighters in the UFC, and for that reason, I think he's going to put on a show, and I think that's going to be the standout. And it's on the early prelims, so make sure not to miss it.
There you go. And if you're not watching the card, you can follow along with MMAfighting.com. We'll tell you what happened in that fight. And it's I knew you were going to say that. So
check it out.
All right. Yeah, check it out. Great website. Tremendous website, as Jed likes to say. So I'm going to waste a few moments here while you all cast your votes for Jed, for Evan. I know the last couple of shows where we've gone to the peeps, draw was even an option. So perhaps that is an option once again. So a little programming note.
No
tomorrow,
draw option today. There will be a winner. There will be a winner.
Winners and losers.
Oh,
no draw
it's a
option.
pay-per-view week.
Yeah.
It's a pay-per-view week. We can't be messing around with draws here.
We still can't have a draw if we both just get 50% of the vote.
That is very true.
So
but then
I'm no
if that
mathematologist,
happens,
but that makes sense.
If that happens, Casey will make the final decision.
mathologist.
So there will be a winner, baby. There will be a winner. Tomorrow morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Heck of a morning on the MMA Fighting Twitter Spaces. We're going to start a little bit early because we have the official weigh-in show which is going to kick off a little before 11 a.m. Eastern to get you ready for UFC 278. We'll see if there's any
Who's
drama
doing
on the
that?
scale. Me and Casey and Jose, and if you want to join, hop on in. But you have the day off. So.
I do not. I just know AK's not working, so I didn't know who was going to be doing that with you.
Well, you don't want to jump in and watch the heavyweights weigh in?
No,
Romano's be like 225.
Yeah, and he's probably going to wait till the last minute because heavyweights like to do that for some reason.
It's the best.
It's very true. Well, preview show, 3 p.m. Eastern. Myself, Jose Youngs, Casey will join us as well. We'll take questions. Well, the People's Pre-Fight Show, 5:15 Eastern on Saturday. Myself, Jed Meshew will be back with Casey answering your questions until the first punches are thrown. Jose is in Salt Lake City, so we'll have your post-fight coverage, press conference, post-fight show, and then 11 a.m. on Sunday morning, Jed and I are back for a live edition of On to the Next One, matchmaking. We're going to have some fun. AK will not be here for that because he is in Scotland, I believe. He's living the high life. So I think we've wasted enough time here. Let's bring in the man with the baddest stash in MMA media, Casey Leiden.
Mr. 3024.
There he is. Mr. 3024, Casey Leiden. Do we have a decision here? Have the peeps come through?
I'm trying to stretch this out. I'm trying to stretch this out because this is super close. This is super close.
Oh.
Wow. All right.
It's
Wait, let me get to our YouTube channel so I can vote.
Hey, no peeking. No cheating. You're like the corner guy that gets behind Buffer when they read the announcements because he already knows the decision. You're that guy.
Both guys had to dig real deep here to find the storyline. So let's see.
Give the old Jeopardy music countdown.
Yeah.
A little bit
Here
longer.
Yes.
All right. We have a winner. Your winner with 54% of the votes is...
Ooh.
That is close.
And still,
nice.
Jed Meshew.
I see the face. I saw the face of disgust. So I heard it. He kind of gave it away.
I couldn't hide it.
It's like he walked out of his front door and like a skunk sprayed in his driveway. That was the look that you had on your face.
Can't believe I had to say this out loud. Yeah, it's just...
So Jed gets it done.
I'm sorry to disappoint.
Let's be clear. I won because of the PFL $1 million thing. Like that's where all my votes came from. I'm 100% certain of that.
Yeah,
dude, that was hilarious.
That was the winner.
All right, Jed. Your 30-second victory lap, my man.
Ooh, I'm excited because I actually prepared something this time. Let's talk about Paulo Costa. He might not be very good, and I say this and I think he's going to beat Luke Rockhold, but I want us to just contextualize what his career has been. His wins are, let's remember, Gareth McClellan, Oluwale Bangbose, Johnny Hendricks, Uriah Hall, and then a robbery over Yoel Romero. That is not a great resume if we're being honest. And he lost to Izzy and he lost to Marvin Vettori, the two best guys he's fought that aren't Yoel Romero. There's a real chance that he is not very good, and Luke Rockhold, at least at one point in time, was very good, and I am getting very, very close to just thinking Rockhold's going to beat him as this fight gets closer. So tune in Saturday, and we will find out who does win.
Evan, we appreciate you jumping on. Ed Cap put out the feelers, and you jumped in, and we appreciate that very much. Your thoughts on the voting and your time here in the virtual arena?
Hey, I appreciate you guys having me on. I had a really good time, and I hope we can do it again. Shout out to Ed for hitting me up. But no, I think the voting was good, man. Jed's a winner for a reason. He's very well thought out. Obviously very educated and well spoken on the topic. So, congratulations to Jed, and hopefully we can run it back.
Guy.
I know this is un-BTL like, but maybe we're changing our ways.
This guy's way too polite and nice to be a fighter. Get out of here.
That's not how that's going to work.
I'm sorry. All right. My bad.
Evan, let me be your mouthpiece.
Yeah, if Evan and Joe Selecki played each other in this game, it would be the
Oh my
kindest
God!
show.
Can you
in the
do
history
that?
of BTL.
Make that happen.
Maybe.
Make that happen.
I mean, they're in the same division. It's tough. It's tough. I would love to try it, but we'll see what happens. We'll have to check in with the man, the myth, the legend, Ed Cap to see if we can make that work. But you can hit the exit music, Casey, because we are done. We went a little overtime today, but we had a million things to talk about. Of course, we got UFC 278 coming up on Saturday, and it should be fun. And we'll have a lot to discuss coming out of that event. And hopefully you will join us for all of that content. So thank you very much for watching. For Jed, for Evan, I am Mike Heck. Big shout out to Casey Leiden on the ones and twos. The iconic voice of Esther Lynn takes you home. We'll see you back here once again Between the Links next week. Good night, everybody.
This has been Between the Links. Thank you for watching. Evan Oder, you are the people's champ. Jed Meshew, you suck. You suck, Jed. You suck, Jed.